morning. So we weren't really going to record this one, but I got it in my head to do like this little logistics video because we are currently at Gainsborough Lock. And we have a practical problem, which is I need to take a train into London tomorrow to meet with a researcher I'm going to be working with, and I've got to spend the evening down there. And we've been just less than 48 hours on here. 48 hours would be about 4 o'clock this evening. But we've been on here for more time than we want to be here. We can't stay on this mooring. This is the EA mooring. We've been here for the 48 hours. We could go to the Gainsborough town moorings over there, but they're a little bit rough and ready. They haven't really been maintained, so it's easier for smaller boats to get in than it is for the larger ones. Back that way is the Goba mooring we stayed at a few weeks ago before we headed down to Bedford. And Joe's walked ahead and with George, and she's going to check whether or not there's a space for us, and then she's going to radio me. Hopefully it'll be the radio if she's not out of range. If it is out of range, it'll be the phone that I'm recording this on right now. And she'll tell me whether or not there's a space for us to move back to. So it's a really short move. It's just sort of a bouncing around logistics move. We're doing this so that we can have an extra day here for me to go down. And Joe's going to go on some walks and stuff. So it's just a good location to put the boat for doing that. So hopefully there's a space. But in the meantime, while she's making the walk, I've got to get the boat prepared. So things that I do for that. We have these GoPro Hero 4 silver cameras that we use. These are what we use to do the time-lapse videos. And every morning when we get going, we've got to take the cameras out and we've got to plug the new batteries in them. And I've got to put them somewhere and open them up to let them acclimate to the humidity of the day. Otherwise, they're going to end up with great big rings of condensation on the front of the lens. And that still happens even if they've acclimated for a while, because it all depends on how humid it is. Today is a very humid day, so we might end up with the same problem. We record time-lapse on these things. We don't record real-time video, although people have requested real-time video, and sometimes we've shot it, but the reality is that it just causes too many problems. Real-time video produces a huge file size compared to time-lapse video, so we'd have the logistics problems of dealing with that. We've got over 400 videos now, and just sheer footage thing, we've had to fill up terabytes of drives to deal with the footage. We still keep the old footage for archive for if we want to use it later and everything, so it just adds up. So we're at multiple terabytes using time-lapse video. If we'd been using real-time video, this boat would be full of hard drives. So cloud backup isn't really an option because we're just over 4G connections. We end up having to deal with physical hard drives, which means we have to buy more physical hard drives, which increases the cost of making the productions. So we went with the stylistic choice of, hey, we like time-lapse. We know a lot of people don't like time-lapse, but this is practical. It fits onto the cards that we have, so we don't need to buy bigger cards. It allows us to not change the batteries every roughly half hour, which is what we'd have to do if they were running in real time, half hour to 45 minutes. Newer cameras last longer. The newer designs from GoPro don't have these housings and they don't fog up, so but we didn't want to put any of the budget into that. So while these cameras work, we've been using them. We've been using the time lapses. They've become part of our style, and that's kind of how we work. But in order to do that, we have to do this acclimating thing. And we've got to do it twice because we've got 2 cameras. One that sits at the front, one that sits at the back. Joe will end up taking all of the footage from these after they're recorded, and she'll capture it into Final Cut Pro. And luckily, there's time code on these things. It makes it so that they all sort of line up with each other in linear fashion, and it makes it a little bit easier for her to edit. They also sync up somewhat miraculously with what's being recorded on the camera of the iPhone, as long as everything's got its clocks in sync. Well, the clocks aren't in sync anymore. This one, every time the battery dies, the clocks go back to 0 in 2015 or something. So she ends up having to just kind of put them into the video and have them be in linear order, and then she's got to move everything around until they actually sync up and can be used to produce the video. So she has to find something that they've all recorded similarly. Well, that's normally the getting off point of this whole thing when we would leave, but I'm still waiting. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set up the camera on a little time lapse over there, and I'm going to to record me getting the engine running and all that sort of thing. And yeah, then hopefully I'll get a message and we'll do a quick backwards 180 and back to the mooring. Okay, Joe's giving me a call. There are spaces available, so I am backing up. And yeah, there's some boats coming up the lock over here. Guillotine's not open yet, so I'm just going to turn around before they get here, just to get out of their way. Looks like the timer hasn't even gone on the guillotine, so it should be no problem. And then I'll get out of here. Right, so a quick 180-degree turn, and I'm away from the lock. And we're only about 5 or 6 minutes away from the mooring, so I'm just going to putter on over there. Well, putter. I'm going to putter kind of quick. I'm going to putter at the speed limit. Well, actually, probably a little below it. It's a 7-mile-an-hour speed limit here. But, yeah, I'll get us over there. Really just this enormous field over here, Huntingdon, up in that direction. And, yeah, really nice spot. I don't think there's any cows at the mooring, though. But I'll check with Joe to see. And sure enough, didn't do enough acclimation, didn't let them go long enough. So this GoPro is fogging up. So I gotta open it and give it some air. The front one was going for longer, so hopefully it's not all fogged up and you're able to actually see right now. But we'll find out. It's a nice place to have a mooring, actually. So that's Huntingdon and Gainsborough's nearest equivalent to a beach. And it's very popular with dogs and very popular with young children and teenagers and adults who come out there to frolic and swim in the water on the hot summer days. All of which might be brought into question by a viewer the other day telling me that some cruisers, some sailboats and cruisers up here are allowed to use sea toilets, so they're just flush straight into the water, leaving black water in the river, which I'm not sure if that's true because I haven't looked up the, I mean, it sounds possible. It is a river, it does drain out to sea. However, it's a highly controlled river, locks and things. So I have question marks. I haven't actually looked at that portion of the regulations for the river ooze system bylaws, largely because I never even thought about it. But if it's true, maybe think twice about swimming in the beach at Huntingdon and Gainsborough. But still a lovely field to watch. Verdant and green, possibly because of the raw sewage in the water, which would be a good nutrient. Right, that's us. We've moved as far as the moorings. There are no cows. Cattle have apparently either gone to the great beef factory in the sky or have moved to another field somewhere. I'm hoping for the latter. They were nice cows. And bull. Big bull. Very big bull. It was a nice bull. And productive. So I just don't think he should be like, you know, chip beef and sandwich or anything at this point. Anyway, one way or another, that's the logistics move. We have moved a grand total of like maybe half a kilometer.